I'm joined now by former Conservative councillor Clare De Silva. And Clare, we're talking about the recent budget, Rachel Reeves' second budget as Labour Chancellor. With the main key features of it leaked before she actually got onto her feet in the Commons, there's been lots of time for people to actually dissect what this government is going to do when it comes to tax and spending. Do you think that she has made the right decisions for the country?
In a word, no, I don't. I do think that Rachel Reeves has had an incredibly difficult balancing act in this budget. She is under pressure from her own backbenchers. She's got an eye on the markets. She's sticking to her self-imposed fiscal rules. There's a lot of pressure on her, and I think some of that is starting to, the cracks at the seams are starting to show. And the leaks, not just immediately before the budget, but all the way in the run up to it, have really shown some of the chaos, I think, behind the scenes. And it is she's got a very difficult job, that's true. But I think all of that pressure on her has not resulted in sound decision making in this instance. It is really difficult to make good decisions when you're under that kind of stress if you don't have an overall clear vision of where you're going. And I think because I don't believe she does have a clear vision of where she wants to see the country going, I think she's crumbled under that pressure. And I on a personal level, I really feel for her. But in terms of the nation's finances, I think this is a really terrible budget for this country, penalising working people and slowing growth right down. I think it's not good news.
Could it be argued that the decisions that have been taken in helping those who are in most poverty in the UK, it's actually a compassionate decision?
Well, I don't think it was done without compassion. I think the driver behind it certainly is a desire not to see children living in poverty. And I think that is a good desire. I don't think what they've done in scrapping the 2-child benefit cap, where people are allocated a portion of money if they're on benefits for each child at 2 children. I don't think that actually is the way to tackle it. And I think the issue with that is it penalises all children because parents are having their taxes increased to pay for it. And there's a real sense of unfairness and injustice. A lot of people are really struggling who are in work. We have an incredibly difficult environment in terms of cost of living. And, there's a lot of families where 2 parents are working and working really hard, can't afford their own house, probably ever. And, they are probably making really tough decisions about stopping at 1 child or 2 children. And if you don't do any of those things and you'll be giving money for each child, there is that's the kind of thing that really stokes division, and that's not good either. So I don't disagree with her motivation on it. I think there is definitely compassion behind it, but I don't think it's the right way of solving the problem. And that, we have a divided enough society at the moment as it is, and this really, really isn't going to help.
Do you think it's enough for us to rely on politicians and governments to fix the finances of the nation, particularly when it comes to making sure work pays? Or do businesses and industry actually have some responsibility too?
Well, actually, for sure. I believe that it's our businesses that grow our economy. It's people working, it's entrepreneurs starting businesses. It is much harder to do that in the framework that we now have, with income tax rising, with the national minimum wage for younger people really rising. On the one hand, that sounds great. On the other hand, if you're a small business owner and you are potentially thinking of taking on 2 18-year-olds, maybe you're only going to take on 1 now. And that's not great for youth employment either. So, we need to see more growth. I think the issue with this budget is it's really not going to cause growth. It is going to do the exact opposite. And without that, growing economy, without that flourishing economy in our country, we are going to see more people needing to claim benefits, more unemployment, and the cost of the state is going to get higher, and the pool of people paying for it is going to get smaller. And I think the way Rachel Reeves has gone about it is just completely upside down. And I understand the pressures on her, but this really isn't the way forward.
Claire, you spoke about having a vision for the economy and for the nation. Is that somewhere where Christians can actually intervene in politics? Can we help our politicians, whatever our party, to actually have visions for how society should be?
I think that most politicians, especially those in any kind of policy role where they're designing systems, probably desperate for ideas right now. And if you are a Christian or not, who has a great idea about how we can do things differently, it would kind of be irresponsible not to put it forward, really, not to get involved, or to, just do your thing, just grow your community, grow your business in whatever way you feel is the right way to do that. Even in the constraints that we have nationally, there's definitely a space for that. I think probably the main thing as Christians is that we, part of our job, if you like, is to see outside of ourselves. So if we're starting a business, it isn't always just about that business for us and our family, but who are we employing? What are we doing for them? How are we being responsible in our business actions? If we're called to politics, how are we doing that? Not just for our own careers, but to make things better. And whether you get a platform that's big, whether you become Chancellor of the Exchequer or whether you run a cafe on the corner, it doesn't really matter. We're called to make a difference wherever we're landed. So absolutely. And I think, politics is in crisis. Our country is really divided. This is our time to step up and demonstrate a practical way with actions as well as our words.
Clare De Silva, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.